All right, so let's begin. So, do you guys have Metasploitable installed on your systems? Both of you? Do you have Metasploitable on your systems? Metasploitable 2, actually. Yes, okay. Kali is not working. Why? What's happening? What is the issue? Like, what is the issue that you're getting when you say it's not working? How exactly is it not working? That's what I need to know. It is only so, like, you're not able to download it completely. No such file is found. And where exactly are you getting this error? Like, is the browser giving you some kind of error or? Would it be possible for you to share your screen and show me exactly what it is that you're getting? You're reinstalling it. Okay. All right. So, okay, try again and then tell me what happens. Tutorials that will not open anymore. No, that should not be the case. I mean, even it's neither for a virtual machine nor for a physical installation. If you have installed it, it's up to you when to use it. If you're not using for a few days, you don't have to reinstall it every time. That's this is happening. Okay, your installation of Kali, is it a virtual machine or is it an installation on an actual system? on VMware. Okay. So, okay, let me just get this. You install it. Okay, ISO image. What is the issue with the ISO image? Not issue then. Okay, try using the mic today. I think this should work. My sound should be working today. Try saying whatever the issue is.
Hel- Hello.
Yes.
So actually, not the issue with ISO image. We are installing with the ISO image,
Yeah.
not directly with the VMware file. We are directly installing ISO image itself.
You are installing from the ISO, right?
Yeah,
So once you install it and you don't use it for a couple of days, what
yeah. Then
happens
it
is
will not. No, it will not open. It shows
it will
some file missing, showing some file missing. So we have to reinstall.
some file missing.
Yeah,
And is it like the same file every time, or does this like is it a different file?
that we didn't check. That I
You can
didn't
check
check, but some DLL file is missing. That's it. Every time
DLL
that's
file.
DLL
Okay.
file. Yeah, DLL file itself every time.
So if it's a
XML.
DLL file, then that should be, I think that might be related to your system, your physical host. You are using VMware on Windows, right?
Yeah, Windows 10.
Okay. So DLL files are present in Windows. Linux does not use them.
Okay,
So
we don't know what's
if
the issue.
can you tell me the exact name of the file that the error is showing up so I can look into it and
If it's
maybe I'll
shown next
have
time,
a
I will
solution.
take the screenshot and I will share it.
Yeah, try to do that. Because
Okay,
once I have an exact idea of what is happening, I'll be able to give you a much better response.
okay, sir. Okay.
And Arjun, are you also having some issue with it with Kali? You said it's not working. Are you having the same issue or like something else? Same issue. Okay. It used to work properly, and then like did something change or re-download?
Yeah, he called me yesterday. He told me it's not working, and he told the file also is showing some error.
If I can see the actual error, that will going to
Okay, yeah.
be much more helpful in solving the issue. So try to get a screenshot, or at least just see what the error is and tell me the exact thing. So then I'll be able to give you a much better solution for it, because right now I'm not exactly sure why you're getting that error. So okay, it's reached only 2 GB out of 4 GB, and it's stopping at 2 GB every time. Is that what the issue is? No. Okay, so let it download. All right, it might take time. Okay, no worries. Just give it some time. Okay, so with Metasploitable, I'll just start. Okay, so we'll cover a little bit of it, and so I was not done. Okay,
Actually, I'm using my phone Zoom. Now I changed to computer.
okay, okay. So when you use Metasploitable, this is what you'll see. Okay, so if you are able to get this login screen, that means it has been properly configured and installed. Now, in this case, I'm just going to log in with MSF admin, but I'm not going to do that for the other machines that we'll see. Okay, here I'm just going to directly use ifconfig and look at my IP, which is 10.0.2.241. Now I am going to come back to my attacking system. All right, so the first thing we are going to do is we're going to run some Nmap scans. Okay, and
Hello,
we
sir.
start. Yeah,
Sir, can you send us these class videos? Videos.
yeah, you'll be getting the links, don't worry.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, so as I was saying, yeah, the first thing we do is we start off with some Nmap scans. Okay, we have the IP. Now we run some scans with Nmap. Have you used this Nmap previously?
Yes, sir.
Yes, all right.
For Mr. Robot.
For Mr. Robot. Okay, so you've done that, Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is just a normal scan, nothing else, no other options. I'm just going to run default scan. So this is giving me that the information that there's about 23 open ports. Okay, because if you don't specify anything, you will be getting scan results for the first, or not actually the first, the 1,000 most common ports. That's what you'll be getting the results for. And out of 1,000, 977 are closed and the rest are open. So these are the open ports. Now, it's always better to get an idea of the total number of ports open. So I'm going to run a complete port scan now. Let's see what we get here. So -p is used for specifying the ports that you want to scan, and you can give it either a few particular ports, or even you can give it any number of ports you want, one port, two ports. You can specify a range. I want to specify that I need to scan all ports, so I'm going to use -p hyphen, that's the shortcut for it. So now there is a total of how many ports do we have a total of? Can you tell me? Like, what's the total number of ports available?
65,505.
Yes, 65,535. So out of that, again, 30 ports are open in total and the rest are closed. So of course, we're not going to be seeing anything related to that, but for the open ports, we have the results. Now I would like to get even more information about this, because you know, just finding out what ports are open is not good enough, right? We need more information. We need more details about what stuff is running on these ports, like what kind of programs, what kind of services are running. We need to figure that out. So we'll run some more scans. Let's say the next thing I'm going to run is a service version detection scan. So I'll find out what programs are present, and out of that information, we'll see how we can proceed further. What programs and what versions of those programs? Like, let's say if there's a program and you're looking for an exploit for it. Now, exploits are, like I mentioned, they're only going to work for a particular version of that service. So that's why this information is also very, very important. Sometimes these scans can take a little bit of time. All right, so we have the details. Now, rather than just telling us what ports are open, it has also given you the details as to what version of a particular service is running. Okay, now without getting any more information about this system or the services running, based on just these results alone, just by looking at this, can you tell me a way through which I can get access to that system, to my target system, Metasploitable in this case, and I won't have to look for any other information just based on these scan results? How can we get access to this system? Like, what is a surefire way to get access and to be able to root this system just based on these results?
Metasploitable root cell.
Yes, exactly. Now, for some reason, they've made it extremely easy to exploit this system. And I mean, not even exploit it, it's just left a root shell running on one of the ports. So, if I wanted to exploit this, what would I use?
I didn't get to, sir.
I'm saying that if we already know that there's a root shell running, right? We
Yeah,
already know that. Now, how do I
yeah.
connect to it?
Through that port 1524.
Through that port, and what tool can I use here, or what command can I use here?
No, sir.
No? Okay, no worries. So there's this thing called Netcat, NC. It was also mentioned
Yeah,
yesterday when we were looking at the tools list.
yeah.
So this is a tool that you use to connect to a port on another system, and you also use it to open ports on your system so that some other system can connect to yours.
Okay.
So all I need to do in this case is netcat, and I need to specify an IP address. So that is the IP for this machine, and a port number on which to connect. So the port number I'm going to use is this 1524.
Two.
Okay, so NC for netcat followed by the IP and the port. So you type all that in, press enter, and we are connected. So we now have root access to that system, to the Metasploitable system. Just what we've done is we've merely connected to this. Now, of course, this is not a very realistic situation at all, because no one is going to leave a root shell running on their system. And
Okay.
okay, so I mean, Metasploitable is, it's purely for practice purposes. So they've left this just like this. So the most you can do is, if you want to see how a netcat works, you can test it out. But this is not realistic at all. No worries. We have quite a lot of services running here, and we can see what to do with these services. One of the things that I can do here is, okay, I'll just exit this shell, and I'll run a vulnerability scan. So a vulnerability scan is a just a variant of a normal script scan. You say script space one, or script is equal to one vuln. So vuln is the category of scripts which in Nmap which I use for vulnerability scanning. So I'm going to run this, and meanwhile let's take a look at what we can do here. Now there are a lot of services running here. Like you can see there are 80 ports. Normally this would not be the case on most systems. Okay, you have like a few ports running, five at best. Okay, 80
Okay.
30 is actually way too much, but just for practice they have given a lot of ports and they've kept them open here. All right, so we have FTP servers running. Okay, we have a couple of those. We have database servers running, MySQL, PostgreSQL. We have SSH, VNC, services which allow you to remotely access systems, and a few other Apache servers, Tomcat, web servers. These are all web servers. So I'll just come over here and open up Metasploit. So the command to do that is msf console. So this is going to start up Metasploit. Okay, it'll take a couple of minutes. Okay, so now we have entered the Metasploit shell. Okay, so this, when you see this kind of prompt, that is you have entered the shell for this particular tool, in this case Metasploit. But it's MSF actually stands for Metasploit framework. So it has a lot of stuff, a lot of usability. So it's a complete framework. Now, have you used Metasploit previously?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So now I know the scan can take a little while. So I'm going to start before I get the results. Okay, actually it's quite close to completion actually. Let's just wait maybe a few seconds. Okay, maybe about a minute more. Okay, I'll let this finish, and meanwhile I'll just go ahead and start looking for ways to exploit some of these services in Metasploit. Now when you come across any exploit, okay, now keep in mind we don't have the results for this back yet. So I'm just going based off of this. So you have this kind of version detail about the server. So VSFTPD 2.3.4. All right. So you go into your Metasploit and you search for that particular service. Okay, it's that particular version of the service. Let's say, okay, VSFTPD. Let's skip the 2.3.4. Let's see if there is anything for VSFTPD first. If there are too many results for anything, then you can think about filtering and adding, making your search more specific. But you should always try giving it a little broader parameter at first. So let's see. Okay, so search VSFTPD and it has only come up with one result. It says VSFTPD version 2.3.4 backdoor command execution. So first thing you need to check is whether it's the same version that you have. 2.3.4. Yes, it's the exact same version. All right, so I can try using it. Or instead of going to Metasploit first, you can also search for VSFTPD 2.3.4. You can also go to Google, exploit. Okay, if you get any results for it, that's an indication that, okay, now there are quite a few results for this. If you take a look at the first one, okay, so VSFTPD 2.3.4 backdoor command execution. All right. And this is on Rapid 7's website. Rapid 7, these are the people who have created Metasploit. So if there's something on their website, it's definitely available. The exploit is definitely available within Metasploit. So they've shown you how to use the exploit. So I know that Metasploit contains this particular exploit, and I can go and just use that. All right, so I'll just come back here. Now we also searched for it here and we have a result. I'm just going to say use, and I can either say use 0, which is the search result number, or I can use this entire thing. So that's, I'll say use 0, and now that particular exploit is selected. Okay, so for this, the first thing you do is you see the options or the different parameters you need to set in order for it to work. So there are two parameters, there are two options that you need to set: R host and R port. R host is your target IP, and even it could be a domain name depending on what your target is. In this case, we have IP, so we need to use that. And R port is the port, the target port. So I'm going to say set R hosts, and I'm going to give it this value. This is the value for my target host IP. Set R host and the value. So R host is now set. If I take a look at the options again, I can see that it's set, and now both of these options are required. So in some modules, in some cases, you'll see that Metasploit does not require certain parameters. Okay, like those are not essential for the module to run. But in this case, both of these are essential. So without, and of course, like, it makes sense. Without the IP and the port, you can't run the exploit. You can't expect Metasploit to do anything unless it knows where to send the attack to. So now that we have both of these set, I'm going to, I can either use the exploit option or I can use the run option. Exploit or run, both commands work. And in this case, the payload is automatically set and there are no options that need to be set for it. But in some exploits, you'll have to manually set the payload yourself. And when we come to that, I'll show you how it works. All right, so when I ran it, exploit, okay, so it first grabbed the banner, or it found out what service is running. So that's VSFTPD 2.3.4, which we already know. But of course, every time you connect to the FTP server, it's going to display that information that this is the FTP service that is being used. Now, after that, it shows you the basic steps that it followed, and ultimately it got root access. And we now have shell access, command shell, session 1. So every different shell access that you have in Metasploit, like you can have multiple at one time. So all of these are separated into different sessions. Okay, so I can run the id command and I'll find that I'm root on this system. Print working directory ls, so we'll see the system files. This is another way to get root on the Metasploitable system using Metasploit. There are other ways. Okay, there are other services that can be exploited, and some of them without Metasploit as well. Let's see what else we have. And by now, I think we should have gotten these results back. Okay, so yes, we do indeed have these results back. And so the first port that it's talking about is VSFTPD 2.3.4 and showing that it's vulnerable to this particular exploit. And it's giving you some more details about it, the CV ID, and some more results. Like it even tried to exploit it and it's giving you the results of the ID command. So it's not going to try and exploit every vulnerability that it finds, but for some cases, Nmap does do that. So let's see what else we have here. Now with SSH, you don't really have vulnerabilities for SSH. Okay, we don't really exploit SSH. Now it is showing a few CV IDs, but that's not really going to go anywhere. SSH is something that you either, if you have some credentials, then you can log in using SSH, log into that system. Otherwise, you leave it alone. And only as a last resort, you would consider, let's say, brute forcing SSH. Okay, so we usually leave SSH alone. Telnet isn't even used in most places anymore. It's just is replaced by SSH, and they have used both here for some reason, but that's not going to be the case. You'll either have SSH or Telnet. Then it's showing you something with the SMTP server is not vulnerable. Okay, so not vulnerable, then we don't have anything to worry about. It's showing us some vulnerabilities related to TLS. Again, that's TLS vulnerabilities are only if they are mostly just for man in the middle attacks, and we are not going to be doing that. And they don't even give you a lot of information. Okay, this information leakage is very small, and it's essentially in most cases it's a waste of time. So there's no point in pursuing those. Okay, let's see what else is vulnerable, and we can try and exploit it. Okay, there's something else that is vulnerable here. On port 1099, we have this Java RMI. Okay, GNU class path RMI registry. All right, and it is vulnerable. So RMI registry default configuration remote code execution vulnerability. Now, remote code execution is something that we are always looking for whenever we exploit a system, whenever you are trying to hack into a system. So remote code execution simply means that you can basically get a shell through remote code execution, or RCE. You can remotely execute whatever commands you want. So let's try this out. Now, I'm already in one session. I'm going to abort it. I can background it if I want. So, but right now, I'm just going to. Okay, we are. Where are we at this point? Yes, just abort it. All right. Now I'm going to search for RMI. Okay, let's see what I get. Okay, there's way too much stuff because RMI is something that's, it comes up in other stuff as well. Let's change it to something like RMI registry. All right, now we have fewer results, and okay, this is manageable. Okay, 4 results is good. More than 200 results is not really something that you want to wade through all of it. So this is fine. Now what we need to do is It says RMI registry default configuration, remote code execution vulnerability. So we need to look for the description, which is similar to what we've seen here. Okay, now out of these four, you can eliminate this one just by looking at what kind of module it is. It's an auxiliary module. Auxiliary modules don't help you to exploit something, they are just there to give you some information. Okay, so they are not used for exploiting stuff. So, okay, this one, it reads Java RMI server, insecure default configuration, Java code execution. Okay, so this is something that matches what we've seen. Okay, default configuration, remote code execution. All right, so I'm going to try this one out. Sometimes what you try may not work out, but it's always good to try it out. So use and to, let's see the options. Okay, so again, I'll have to specify a value for the R hosts. Now the payload has been automatically selected here, and even the payload options have been automatically configured. So L host is, it's going to give me a reverse shell. Okay, it's a reverse TCP connection. So it's going to give me a reverse shell. And for a reverse shell, you need to specify your own IP address, so IP address of your attacking system, and a port on that system where the reverse shell is going to be connected. Okay, so to what port should the other device send the connection? So that is L port. Now by default, it has been set to 4444. You can either keep it, either you can use the same one or you can change the port. But of course, don't change the IP, because if you change the IP, you won't be able to get the connection back.
Sir, it will type automatically our IP.
In this case, this payload has automatically selected your IP, but in some payloads might not do that. So you'll have to
We
set
have
it
to give.
manually. Yeah. Okay. So
Suppose the R host attacking victim IP for R
yes,
host.
for R host, the victim's IP, and the L host is your own IP.
Okay.
Okay. So now in this case, my IP is already present. It has picked up the IP and it is using that. But R host, okay, now even in the previous, the previous module that I used, the VSFTPD exploit, I had to specify the R host and I have to do the same thing again. So rather than having to specify the same option multiple times for different modules, it's better if I set it just once and every module is going to use that value. So the way to do that is, instead of set, just write set G. Set G is set global. Okay, so global is, it's a global parameter, so global option. So every module that you use currently, it will pick up that value and you won't have to set it every time. So I'm just going to say set G R hosts, and this option names like R hosts here, that is it's not case sensitive. So uh, uppercase, lowercase doesn't matter. Again, I'm going to, there's a mistake. So this is the value for R hosts. Our port is 1099, and I can come back here and verify whether that's the case. Yes, this is the port. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see whether there is any other option that is required. So all the other options that are required are set, and there are few other options that are not required. Okay, so SSL certificate and URI path. Basically, what this module does, it creates a server on your own system, and it uploads a file to using your server to the target server and creates a backdoor connection through that. So it's asking you these details for the server on your system. So, in this case, my system actually. So the host or the local host is, of course, it's going to be my own device, and 0.0.0.0 is another way of just specifying that. Server port 8080 is fine. I don't have anything else running on that port currently, so it's
So
fine.
what's more that SRV host?
SRV host is, it's just again it's similar to L host in this case.
Okay.
It's not going to be set for every module, but like we didn't have anything of the sort for the previous module. It
Yeah.
depends on what it does, how it works exactly. So in this case, it's opening up a server on your system, and it's sending a kind of a backdoor to the other system through that server, through that connection, and that is
So so
allowing
making
you
a random server in our host.
in your system. Yes, but that is not an issue.
Yeah.
Metasploit is going to handle all that. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to create a sub server or anything. All that is going to be handled by Metasploit.
Okay.
Okay, so it's going to manage everything.
Okay. Okay.
And you see, it even has the values set automatically. You don't have to do anything there. That is all I need to currently do here. I can just go to, I can check
If
options,
we
see
change any
everything is
value
configured.
on SRV, it will not work.
It might give you an error because you can write localhost or 127.0.0.1, but if you give it any other IP, then it is not going
Okay.
to work properly
Okay.
because
Okay.
you are running this on your server, sorry, on your system.
Uh,
So just let
yeah.
these values be. You can change the port if you want, but IP, just let it be. If you want to change the port, that's up to you. That's not going to cause any issues.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Got it? Okay. So now everything is set. All I need to do is run or exploit, whatever you want to do. It's going to do the same thing. See, it's telling you that it's using a URL. So it has created a server on your own system, and it has sent a payload through the server to the target, gotten it executed, and now after that you have your shell. Now in this case, you have a meterpreter shell rather than a regular shell. Do you know what this is, meterpreter?
Interpreter we have seen on while Windows hacking.
Okay. So meterpreter is, see, it's basically, you could say, an advanced shell.
Okay.
Okay, slightly advanced shell. In the previous module, what we got was a normal regular shell on the system. Meterpreter
Yeah.
is something, that it's a shell that comes with Metasploit, and it gives you some more options as compared to a regular shell. Okay, that's what it is. Like, you can do all your regular stuff that you want, and
If we get the normal shell, can we change to the interpreter?
yes, you can do that. I'll show you that as well. How you can
Okay.
do that. Okay, so currently we have this meterpreter shell. Let's say I do something like sys info. It's going to give me some basic system information. If you want, you can first take a look at the commands for meterpreter using the help option, and it has slightly more commands. Like, okay, you can record the mic. In case there was a webcam on the target, you would have had the option for being able to see the webcam on your target system. You can
Okay.
get a screen share or a screenshot, so you can watch the remote user desktop in real time. Now, of course, these are the kind of things that are not possible with the regular shell, so
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's why meterpreter shell has some more capabilities, and it is a slightly more advanced shell.
Okay.
So you can get all the details about commands available here. So first you have your core commands for meterpreter, like this help menu, Or if you want to background the current session, like I mentioned, if you can open multiple sessions. Okay, you want to close a channel, you want to terminate the session, stuff like that. Then you have normal file system commands: cat, cd, cp, delete, dir. Dir is the Windows equivalent of ls. So even Meterpreter, you can use either ls or dir. Ls is also present. Then edit files, get lwd is like your pwd command. Then you have your normal make directory, move, remove, those kind of things. Networking commands to get some kind of network information about the target. And system commands if you want to execute a command on that target system, or if you want to just use a regular shell rather than Meterpreter, you can also do that. You can go into shell and
Like just a
sysinfo.
shell.
Yeah, normal shell like we see with we've saw with the previous exploit. We see with the
FTP.
previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a normal shell,
Mm.
and running this shell command will give you drop into a normal shell rather than working with continuing with Meterpreter. Then what else is present? Send key events or mouse events, but this is not really used a lot in case you want to do some kind of mischief with your victim system. But this is something that's not really used because it's an indicator to the attack to the victim that their system is hacked. Even as a tester, you're not going to use this because it's going to give you away that you have hacked the system. Right? So let's say ID is not going to work. Get UID. Get UID tells you that the whatever user account is present, that it'll tell you the name. So currently we are root. Okay, so this exploit is also giving us root access. Now what I can do is I can background this session. Yes. And I can use the sessions command to check the running sessions that I have. So currently there's just one session running. The first session we had already closed. Let's see what else we can exploit here.
On the that question on the background session, we need to give as for the if you need background.
You need to control Z. Control Z is the combination you need to press for backgrounding it.
Okay.
And if you want to get back into the session, just use sessions hyphen I, and hyphen I means you want to interact with that session, followed by the ID of the session. Okay, so
Okay.
now I'm back in the session 2. I'm going to background it again. Okay, so in case you have multiple sessions, you can just switch between different ones. Okay, there is another vulnerability, dist cc daemon command execution. Okay, state vulnerable exploitable. All right, let us check. So we are going to search for what is the service name exactly. Dist ccd. Okay, so dist ccd version 1. All right, dist ccd. Let's see what we get. There's just one exploit for it, one result. Again, just use 0. All right, so now we've changed our exploit. Let's check the options. Okay, so for every exploit, if you notice the port, it automatically sets it Okay, so port has automatically been set. And since I use the set global option for setting our host, so it is setting that for every module that I use. So our host is going to be 10.0.2.241 as long as I'm running this session of Metasploit. Okay, so if I run this, it's not going to run. Why? Because it tells me that a payload has not been selected. Now we did not manually select payloads for the previous two exploits either, but in this case, we'll need to do that. Some modules, some exploits automatically select payloads, some do not. This is one of the latter ones. Now, you cannot use all payloads with all modules. Okay, so you need to find out which ones are compatible with the module that you want to run. So what I'm going to do is first I'll say show payloads. So this is going, no, sorry, not payloads. Again, payloads. So this is going to show you the compatible payloads for this module. And we have about 13 or 14 of these. Okay, so I'm going to use this reverse shell one. Okay, so I'll just copy it, set payload. Oh, okay, it's copying. It, I actually copied this as well by mistake. So okay, so now the payload has been set. So I can now check the options again, and now I'll also be getting the payload options. So I'll specify lhost, and I'll also do set global for lhost as well, because my IP is not changing. It's just, so why should I write this every time? Now let's try running this, and you can see that we now have a session opened. Okay, so we are in temp currently. Now the way to upgrade this normal shell session to a meterpreter session, let's see what it is. It's very simple. Just first you background the session. Okay, so press Y, enter, backgrounded, check what sessions are running. You'll see that currently there are two active sessions, right? Now just use the sessions command and use the -u option. So this is for upgrading, and just mention the session ID. So I need to upgrade this session ID, session 3. So sessions upgrade session 3 and press enter. So now there is a module actually post multi manage shell to metapreter, and it's going to automatically run that for this session. Okay, let us check. So as you can see, now we have a fourth session. So when we upgraded this third session, it did not kill the third session. It simply upgraded it and created another session for it. So let's say I want to do sessions and I want to interact with it now. So sessions hyphen I, and okay. Sometimes it gives these things late. Sessions hyphen I 4. Starting interaction with 4, and now I have a meterpreter session. Get UID. So now in this case, my user ID is daemon at the rate metasploitable. So not root, but daemon. And however, that is to be expected since even Nmap tells us that we are going to be getting the user ID of daemon. All right. So Now we are not looking at privilege escalation here, but for other systems, if we don't find root access, we are going to first look for root access and then move on to something else.
Can you please tell how to get this escalation?
Pardon?
Root escalation, how to do?
Your voice is breaking. Sorry, I'm not able to hear you properly.
Hello. Now it's okay. Hello.
Yeah, now it's much better.
Yeah. Can you tell me how to root escalation? How to do it?
How to root a system?
Root escalation. Root privilege. We are explaining
Privilege
privilege now.
escalation is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Now there's actually quite a few different ways, and we'll be covering them as we go throughout the course.
Okay, sir.
There's no one fixed way that will help you perform privilege escalation on all systems. Okay, that's not uh, what's going to happen. So there are multiple ways, multiple techniques through which you might be able to get privilege escalation, and it all depends on how that system is configured. What kind of system it is, what kind of files are present. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways. Some
Okay.
systems will, some techniques will work on some systems, some won't. So that's actually quite a lot of stuff there. Now, uh, trying out, without trying those things out, you can't predict that this technique is going to work on this system or not.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be going through, of course, every machine that we'll see, we'll look into how we can get either root access, or if it is Windows, we'll be looking at administrator access. So don't worry about that. Okay, so again, now you are familiar with, like, you have now got the idea of how to use Metasploit for these things, basic Metasploit
Yes, sir.
usage, right? Good.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of other services that are running there as well. So if you find the time, can you try to exploit those and see what you get
Okay. On this
on Metasploitable?
rest of the. Okay.
Okay, so I'll actually go through that if you want, but just try if you get the time. And one more thing is that even without Metasploit, there's a lot of stuff that can be done without Metasploit as well. I'm not going to stick with Metasploit throughout the course, because while it is a good tool and it's quite useful to you as a penetration tester, if you rely too much on Metasploit, there's a lot of things that, there's a lot of concepts, there's a lot of stuff you might miss out on. So I would suggest that you don't rely too much on it. You should know how to use it, but never rely too much. Okay, so I'll use Metasploit on this one and on the next machine, but after that, we will not be using it. Now, even for this system, even this Metasploitable, there's some stuff that can be done without Metasploit at all. Like you don't have to use Metasploit in all cases for all services. Like for example, okay, I'm going to go back to one of the previous scans, or let's see what Metasploit has given us for something like VNC. Okay, it hasn't given us anything for VNC, But there's something that can be done with VNC as well. It hasn't given you anything for Unreal IRCD, but something is possible with this as well. It hasn't given you much details for that. What was it called? Yeah, MySQL, but you can also do stuff with that. So try and see what can be done with these services without using Metasploit at all. Because see, Metasploit is good if, let's say, there is already an exploit for a particular vulnerability that's present in a service. But in a lot of cases, the service itself might not be vulnerable. Okay, like the code is fine, there's no vulnerability in the code itself. But sometimes what happens is, due to the way it's configured, you might be able to exploit something there. Like it's not a vulnerability, it's not an exploit, but due to proper sorry, not due to improper configuration, or due to something that has been overlooked by whoever is managing that system, you might be able to get into that, you might be able to take advantage of that. So always keep all your options open. Okay, like if you have quite a few ports open, don't settle for just one port, and don't just spend all your time on that. See what else you can find, what else you can do. And okay, we'll continue this tomorrow. Do you have any questions
Yes.
from this?
No, sir. Everything it was clear.
Okay, good. All right. So
So,
next systems, whatever issue you are facing, just try to get like a screenshot, or at least get the exact text, so I can you know help you there. Without the exact thing, it gets very difficult.
yes,
All right. So then I'll see you guys tomorrow.
sir. Thank you, sir.